Now, there is some wiggle room, you know, if there are other activities. But again, remember we said right at the beginning, Rotary takes priority. So while these student weekends are not mandatory, attendance is expected. Let's see. All efforts should be directed toward making the student feel like one of the family, not as a guest. Okay, that's kind of, okay. Host families are discouraged from loaning money. We have had that sometimes where a student, for whatever reason, finds themselves in an impecunious state, and we have occasionally had host families or club members who have loaned that student money. Not a good idea. If there are financial concerns, let your trustee and or the GRSP office know, and you know, we'll try to figure out a solution. But be careful with that one. Call the student weekly, keep in contact with them, visit with them.
Now, when Ian says call, he really means text, because they
Text.
like to talk on the phone.
Yeah, we probably need to change that from text them, yeah, because they don't pick up now, do they? But I like this statement that Larry put in. Treat the student like you would your child in college. I think if we always keep in mind that when we're hosting these students, okay, what would be my expectations if this was my child or grandchild being hosted in a similar program in another country? How would I like the host family and the host Rotarians to treat them? And that's a pretty good rule of thumb there.
Ian,
Yeah.
we had an example this past semester where the host family dropped the student off right after Christmas break to start the semester. The student never heard from him again for the balance of the year. So that may be what you intend to do with your own child.
Thank you.
But that's not the warm and
Not
fuzzies
the idea.
that we expect and appreciate. And we didn't know it until she was just about boarding a plane to go home, and they had no contact with the host family.
And I think that's something where trustees and host families, when they come in, keep reinforcing to the student that, look, if you, the student, have any concern, and that concern is not addressed by the host family, you do have the trustee you can go to, or your club president. Okay, the students are given at conclave the GRSP calendar for the year. Just make sure that they have all the important dates for school, for Rotary, for family events you want them to participate in. But again, the key is we want to make Rotary the most meaningful part of their year. And you know, make sure that up front you emphasize that participating in club functions, whether it's family days, picnics, service projects especially, is a priority that they want and they need to be involved. Here's something we've done in our club now, and probably most of you do the same. We always make up a regular club button for our student. And in fact, the year that we had all three students, only one of them was sponsored by my club, but they would come to all three Rotary meetings every week. I think all three clubs made 3 badges for these students. In fact, there was one year, do you remember Lida Kolostova from Russia? She befriended another Russian student who was a music student at Columbus State, Yunona, you probably remember Yunona. She wasn't a GRSP student, she was a regular, but Lida started bringing her to our club. She would come so frequently as Lida's guest, we ended up just making a badge for Yunona as well, even though she wasn't even GRSP. But you know what? That's what it's all about. And this other girl, she ended up completing her 4-year degree at Columbus State in music, and even after Lida had gone back to Russia, Yunona would still come to our Rotary Club. And you know, but again, we've helped another young lady along her way into her career, and we are still Facebook friends with her to this day. So, you never know, just making some badges, it's amazing the impact a club button can Okay, we've really dealt with this, club members getting involved, keeping the club informed about what's going on with the student. Remember to get with your club program chair and schedule, in the first month or two that the students is here to have the student make a presentation to your club, talk about their family, talk about their country, about their experiences so far to date, and what's kind of brought them to be in the GRSP program. We've kind of learned this over the years. It's always a good idea to preview their talk, especially if they have PowerPoint slides. And it always seems in my club, we've got all these Georgia Tech graduates in my club, but we still can't get the technology to work. And it always seems to be when it's the GRSP student who slaved over this PowerPoint about their home country, and the host families reviewed it and helped them, and they're ready to go. It always seems to be when the PowerPoint is going to go down, it's when our GRSP student. But you know what? Every one of them has risen to the challenge, even without a PowerPoint. But and then remember to plan toward the end of their GRSP year for them to give another talk. We don't do a full program this second time around. It's like a smaller talk, but something where they can thank the club for sponsoring them and talk a bit about what they've learned and their experiences in GRSP. Okay. All right, that's pretty well self-explanatory there. Coordinate plans early after finding dates for school breaks, etc. Let the student know early that you expect them to stay with you, the host family, and or other families in your Rotary Club over Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. This comes up every year at trustees meetings, and we emphasize this. We can't, these are adults. We can't make them stay in the United States over the holidays. But invariably, if they go back home, it's trouble. Now, not always. Some of them go home and come back. Most of them that do go home don't come back, or in the case of one that my club had a few years ago, she went home for the holidays, came back, and a week later, basically she came back to get her stuff. And certainly in that case, it was a B-O-Y. It was all about a boy. And I think a lot of this homesickness thing, it's about a girl or a boy back home. So we really want them to experience the holidays. It is a wonderful part of our traditions and culture here in the United States, is the whole Thanksgiving through Christmas, that whole month when it's just parties. And we want them to experience the holidays with us and not go back home. The holidays are an important part of the cultural exchange. Now, there's time for them to travel at New Year. Usually once Christmas is over, typically a gang of them they'll load up and go somewhere. A popular destination is to go to freeze to death in Times Square on New Year's Eve. I've never seen any attraction, but I can watch that ball fall on the TV in the comfort and warmth of my own home. But these GRSP students, they seem to like to stand out there in the freezing cold and the snow and the ice, watching that ball drop. But that's great. We're happy to do that. One year, recently, and a bunch of them loaded up and went down to, was it Acapulco or Cancun or somewhere. They decided they wanted to just go and chill on the beach and have a good time in Mexico. And they did. They had a great time. I think last year they all went down to Miami, didn't they? Yeah. I could think of places I would rather go to than Miami, but that's what they wanted to do.
If they leave the country, if
They may
they're
not
checked
get back
closely,
in.
they may not be able to get back in.
What they
Visa
have to
status.
do, the counsel for that is tell them if they're going to go out of the country, go to their international office at school before the fall semester ends, and have an international office will check that they've got the correct paperwork to get back in. And I can't recall us having problems with anybody coming back after the holidays. But that's the advice, is host families tell them to check in with their international office, and they'll check their paperwork and make sure they've got what they need to get back.
It's really important too to make sure you let the trustee know they're leaving as well, because if they can't reach you while they're gone, and sometimes that's like the time the host family will take off and feel they can leave, just make sure the trustee knows that they're out of the country or just out of the state.
I'd like to really.
Or know where they are.
We've had a case where the student didn't tell us where they were going down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And as fate would have it, one of the family members passed away. And they were trying to get a hold of the individual. And we had to struggle to find her. And we finally did so. It was only because they didn't relay to us where they were going to be. So having that relationship with them is really key.
And it was her father, she missed the funeral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. So I think the key is whenever they're going out of state, or if they go out of the country, and if they go out of the country, it'll be New Year time for a week or something. Just make sure that they know how to get in touch with you. You know how to get in touch with them. The trustee and the host families are aware. And again, these days it's a lot easier now with Wi-Fi and cell phones and so on. Okay, I think that's enough about that. We've kind of already dealt with that first one about keeping in touch with the student, the professors if they have to miss class. It's always good to make sure that your student has some of your club banners. Nice for them to have one, and nice for them to present one to their sponsoring club when they get back home.
Yeah. My wife reminded me of this, but we had students get scammed over a holiday booking a VRBO to Miami.
Yes, they did.
And if they're not real careful and somebody's looking over their shoulders, it's easy to send money to an inappropriate party thinking they've got something booked, only to find out they have been
It was a
scammed.
park bench.
Arrive in Miami Beach and find out that is a vacant lot and not a home.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a good cautionary tale that yes, they are all adults, but we probably have more experience of booking sites and making travel arrangements than they do. So it's a good idea to encourage them. Look, even if you've got a big group, encourage them. Talk to the host family, talk to the trustee to help them make sure that they make arrangements with a legitimate organization. One of our students this past year, who's just finished up, she and some of them, they loaded up, decided they wanted to go to New York, and they went on this thing called Panda Bus. Now, I have to say, when she came back to our club and told us the story of riding on the Panda Bus, I mean, it had us almost on the floor with laughter, but, I thought to myself, don't think I would have wanted my 19-year-old daughter riding on the Panda Bus to New York. But you know what?
Hey, what is
They had a good time, they got back.
What is it?
Exactly! Thank you, the Panda Bus. I'll tell you about that later if you really want to know about the Panda. And then she said when they went down to Miami, it was an even more interesting experience on the bus service they used down there. Okay, anything you can do, local newspaper, media outlets, anything where your student can help your club promote the program, the student, Rotary in your community is a good thing to do.
Ian,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. May I make a comment about that? I want to caution.
The Panda Bus.
I want to no, the newspaper.
Yeah.
We did that, and the local newspaper quoted her exactly, but it was later, as she read it, said, I wish I had not said that about my country. So coaching them and helping them understand a little bit about media relations. She's like, can't you just call the newspaper and tell them to take it down? No, I can't. And so a little media relations consulting about what to say and what not to say and how to position it. Don't assume they know how to do that and have that skill set. And if you don't have that, I'm a resource for you on that as a professional who does that, but also you may have someone in your club. So call in a subject matter expert on that if you're going to do some media relations, because she said some things that we could put it in context because we heard what she said, but she was embarrassed because she felt it brought shame on her family back home because of how she was quoted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think on this one we've kind of covered most of this. This last little one, part of the cultural exchange, maybe over Thanksgiving, let your student cook a native meal. Now you may not be able to get all the ingredients, but as near as you can. And a lot of our students like to do that, and that's out of that experience, the various GRSP cookbooks that have been published as fundraisers has kind of come out of that.
You might get 80,000 Danish cookies.
Yes. Is that how many you got?
80 dozen.
Until you started to
80
look like
dozen.
a Danish cookie?
80 dozen. Or how many iterations of rice pudding?
Okay.
Bags full.
Okay, we've kind
Did we
of
get?
covered most of these. Okay, this one, just be very, very careful about loaning a vehicle to a student. I would recommend don't do it, but if it's necessary, just make sure you have adequate insurance coverage. Remember the same student that I was talking about, that I had to have the 5-hour conversation with on the way back from Savannah. That host family, they lent her a vehicle, but she was a bit older. But
We've had students that have raped host families.
Exactly. So you better be paid up on your insurance. Okay, this was a topic that came up in trustee training yesterday, and I think there's even some thought of seeing if maybe at conclave, we can get maybe an expert perhaps even from Georgia Southern, who really knows about counseling students on homesickness, the causes, the cycles of homesickness. But I think that's something where, with our program, with the host family, I think we've got a big advantage over just, the average international student who has no support network. But I think the host family and that relationship and that home environment is a big part of helping deal with that. Okay, their plans for their departure. If you've done your job effectively, I like this, their departure will be extremely difficult for host family and for student. And, it takes a lot to get any liquid to come out of my eyes, but I have been at the airport saying goodbye to GRSP students, and, it's hard not to shed a few tears, isn't it, Ken? Because you just so get connected with these wonderful young people, and they invariably, even the guys, go off through TSA with tears rolling down their cheeks. When that happens, you've done a great job as a host family. Oh Lord, I remember the young lady from Hungary all those years back. And you really can't ship stuff these days, but I mean it cost us hundreds of dollars to ship all this stuff. It's like, but she wanted all these textbooks and all this stuff. But I'd say let them put it in a suitcase. And hey, if you have to pay an extra suitcase, but okay. This is one that we always do in our area, and I think probably most clubs do it. We like to have a special reception or dinner, both when they first arrive. August 16th will all be all the Columbus area Rotary clubs, and our students will all be over at Ken's house, and we have just have a great time. Invite all our Rotarians to come, and then we like to do something similar toward the end, just a special reception for the students. be sure the student notifies you if they leave school overnight. We've covered all of that, where they can be reached in emergencies. And encourage these millennials to read, respond immediately to all text messages, emails, and phone messages. And the trouble is they're now using social media communication platforms. You know, I feel like I'm really hit with my Facebook account. You know, but I can't get my head. I mean, I don't even do Twitter, I'm afraid. I can't tweet. And I've not gone into Instagram or Snapchat, and goodness knows what else they use now. So they think that those of us who email and phone and even text that we are dinosaurs, but hey, you know, we've got to encourage them. Look, this is how us old folks communicate. We're doing our best, but encourage them to be responsive. And you, host family, are the key to a great year for your student. Well, we've kind of ended up being interactive and dealing with questions and comments, but any other final questions or comments anybody would like to chip in?